Hello, and today we have ourselves a fun one. We have a 1990s septic system, but this one's got a twist. Normally in the 90s, we're gonna have drain fields, but today we have dry wells. So we're gonna go ahead, take a look and see what do we got going on, what kind of access do we have, and what condition is everything in. So let's go ahead and walk on over there. Before we get started though, go ahead and leave a comment below. What kind of septic system do you have, and when's the last time you had it pumped out? So this is gonna be our septic system. We have our clean out in the front, manhole riser in the back. I've already opened up the lids just so we can see what we're working with, but essentially this is going to be over the inlet line of the tank. The purpose of it is in case you flush something you're not supposed to flush, this is how you're going to push whatever it is that gets stuck in the baffle out of the way. Things can get stuck in sewer lines all the time. That's why you want to have access points on your sewer line, whether it's in the house, outside of the house, or if you have a really long sewer line every 75 foot. The clean out on the front of the tank is a standard practice that you wouldn't really see in our area until about the late 60s. Before that, you just had the tank buried and good luck. This next part is going to be the manhole riser. As you can see, it's 24 inches around and it's dead center of the tank. The reason that we want to have that manhole riser in the middle is because our septic tanks are just a big rectangle. It's just a big box in the ground, and usually they're about 10 foot by 5 foot, or if you got a tiny tank, an 8 foot by 4 foot tank. So it's a rather large box. So if you only use the clean out in the front, you're gonna have a really hard time cleaning out the solids from the back. So they put this manhole riser in the center of the tank to make it to where when the guy is pumping the system out, he's able to hit all 4 corners and get all of that sludge out of your system. The reason you want to make sure you get all of the sludge out of the system is because that's what causes your absorption system to fail. Your septic system is designed to clarify liquids. So the tank is your clarification chamber and the absorption system is what gets rid of the liquid. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes, but essentially when it comes to a septic tank, it's going to fill up. You'll hear some old timers that say you never have to pump out a septic tank. They're wrong. It's been studied by multiple different universities and health departments. Pumping out a septic tank every 3 to 5 years is most beneficial to your system. It will help prolong the life of your absorption system and ultimately save you tens of thousands of dollars. The really big thing is you got to make sure you're not putting anything down your toilet that's not human waste or toilet paper. If it's flushable wipes, feminine products, any kind of plastic, you're going to run into problems with clogs. When it comes to a septic tank pumping though, if you don't have that manhole riser, you're not doing a good enough job getting all of that debris out, and ultimately you're gonna have some problems. The next step, what we need to do is we need to get all 4 corners probed out. So we have one flag here for an edge, flag here for an edge, and another flag over here for an edge. So we have 3 lids. We have one lid on front, the middle, and the back. So what we need to do now is we need to dig up right here to get to our 12-inch lid on the rear side of the tank. Unfortunately, we got unlucky and this lid does not want to come up even with all my convincing methods. It is seized in place. So we've run into a little bit of a snag. Now, this particular snag is we're not given permission to actually break that lid. Unfortunately, when lids don't want to open, sometimes your only recourse is to actually bust it apart and then replace it. In this circumstance, they didn't want to do that. So we have to pause with what we're doing. Now, doesn't mean we can't still test the system. It just means it changes what we're doing a little bit. How we're going to test it is introduce water into the system. The reason we want to do that is to make sure water is flowing from the tank to the distribution box to the dry wells. At that point, then we can start to see, are they receiving the same amount of water? And the reason this matters is because when we look inside the pits, we can see one side has more water than the other. So we're going to start running water and we're going to see what happens. What we're looking at here is going to be our dry well. You're not going to be able to see much, but you might be able to hear. Now, it would have been really problematic if I had dropped my camera down in the hole. Essentially, what's happening is more water is going into this one than the other one. So let's take a look at that one. This is our second dry well. There's absolutely no water going to this one at all. So water's not evenly dispersing between the 2 pits. We have the one on the left is getting all of the water, which is why it's basically filled up to where there's only about a foot left, and the one on the right is getting absolutely no water, meaning something is obstructing it, most likely that giant tree. Trees have a nasty habit of growing roots, and what happens when you have a septic system this close to a tree is those roots tend to get in the way, causing obstructions in the line. When you have a septic system, you're going to have your tank, and if you have multiple absorption areas, you're going to have a distribution box. In this case, I think this guy is causing some problems with our distribution box. It started raining a little bit, so we're going to hang out in the truck for a minute. Distribution boxes are little tiny boxes. Usually they're 18 by 12, and the only job that it has is to distribute the water evenly between your absorption area. The absorption area in this case is a dry well. The dry well is a big pit in the ground with dry stack cinder block and stone on the exterior. Best way to think about it is it's a big silo underground where all that nasty water goes. Most commonly for distribution boxes, you're going to see what's called a drain field. A drain field Slightly different. That is going to be a skinny and long, deep trench that has stone around a perforated pipe. In our area, dry wells were the old school way of doing it. We don't do that anymore because it's more cost effective to do a drain field. Your area might do it slightly different, and that's okay. Normally when it comes to a distribution box, you want to pull the whole thing open and see what's going on. In this circumstance, I'm not allowed to remove the back lid on the tank, and I'm not allowed to find the box using my camera. So next step is we have to put water through. We put water through and we can see water's getting to the one and not the other. Now it's getting to the other one a little bit, but not quite as fast as we're putting it into the tank. We're putting about 5 gallons of water per minute into the tank, and we can see majority going to the one on the left and almost nothing on the one on the right. So what this tells me is something is keeping the water from flowing. So either the box has tilted to where all the water's going one direction, or something's blocking it. Now, there's no records of this property of them resting one of the dry wells, because you're supposed to tell the county, hey, we have a problem with this pit. We're going to rest it for a little while. We know we've got an issue, but this should hopefully help buy us some time. Because we don't have any of that information on file, that makes it more likely than not that they didn't actually rest that pit. If they didn't rest the pit, guess what? Now that means that that pit's supposed to be receiving water. This tells us that the distribution box is not doing its job, namely distributing water. So we got to start thinking about, well, what could cause the water not to distribute correctly? And the first thing that comes to mind is that tree. So the next step is, okay, you do nothing, right? And the water will continue going to the one pit. What will eventually happen is that pit will fill up and it will back up. Hopefully, the pipe to the other dry well is not obstructed enough to where when that backup happens, it's able to flow over into the other pit. That's the if you do nothing category. The correct solution would be to excavate the distribution box, pull whatever's obstructing it out of the way, maybe replace the box, because roots are really strong. They can destroy concrete really easy. So if there's roots in the box is probably also toast, but regardless, pull whatever's obstructing that pipe out of the way, and then you're good to go. The reason you don't want to rely on chance is because sewage water is nasty. It's gross. You don't want it in your yard, and ultimately you don't want it back in your basement. When sewer systems back up, they do some weird stuff. They don't always just flow back to the home. They don't always go into the yard. Sometimes you may never know that you have a problem until somebody like me shows up and says, hey, that doesn't look right. Something's going on here. This is why I think as a contractor, it's important to give people options. So as a homeowner, it's not regulated like a real estate inspection, but for a homeowner, you can say, hey, here's how it should work. Here's what you're dealing with. If you do nothing, this is what will happen. The correct solution is to do this. What do you want to do? And then you let the homeowner make their decision. Ultimately, nothing's backing up right now, but it's still not functioning the correct way. Water should be going to both of them, not just the one. The one that's receiving all of the liquid is getting pretty close to failure. The one that's not getting any liquid looks brand spanking new. So, in theory, if the one fails and it backs up, you just plug that one, and then now you use the other one, and you're back in business. You don't have to replace the entire system. But the risk is if you don't correct the distribution box now, is you run the risk of that stuff backing up into your home or into your yard, and that's a safety hazard. You don't want to do any of that. So the long story short on this particular one is we've got ourselves an obstructed distribution box, and we can't be doing none of that. Distribution boxes are designed to equally distribute the liquid, kind of in the name. If you found this useful or interesting in any way, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. I have videos posted every day on the World of Well and Septic. Till next time, guys.